Media in the Flint, Michigan water crisis. Colin McMahon and Colin Riley. The media. 10 things they won't tell you about the Flint water tragedy. But I will. Michael Moore.
While the children in Flint were given poisoned water to drink, General Motors was given a special hookup to clean water. A few months later, Governor Snyder removed Flint from the clean, fresh water we had been drinking for decades. The brass from General Motors went to him and complained that the Flint River water was causing their car parts to corrode when being washed on the assembly line. The governor was appalled to hear that GM property was being damaged, so he jumped through a number of hoops and quietly spent $440,000 to hook GM back up to the Lake Huron water while keeping the rest of Flint on the Flint River water, which means that while the children in Flint weren't drinking lead-filled water, there was one, and only one, address in Flint that got clean water, the GM factory.
For just $100 a day, this crisis could have been prevented. Federal law requires that water systems which are sent through lead pipes must contain an additive that seals the lead into the pipe and prevents it from leaching into the water. Someone at the beginning suggested to the governor that they add this anti-corrosive element to the water coming out of the Flint River. How much would that cost? Came the question. $100 a day for 3 months was the answer. I guess that was too much. So, in order to save $9,000, the state government said, F it. And as a result, the state may now end up having to pay upwards of $1.5 billion to fix the mess.
There's more than the lead in Flint's water. In addition to exposing every child in the city of Flint to lead poisoning on a daily basis, there appears to be a number of other diseases we may be hearing about in the months ahead. The number of cases in Flint of Legionnaire's disease has increased tenfold since the switch to the river water. 87 people have come down with it, and at least 10 have died. In the 5 years before the river water, not a single person in Flint had died of Legionnaire's disease. Doctors are now discovering that another half-dozen toxins are being found in the blood of Flint citizens, causing concern that there are other health catastrophes which may soon come to light.
People's homes in Flint are now worth nothing because they can't be sold. Would you buy a house in Flint right now? Who would? So every homeowner in Flint is stuck with a house that's now worth nothing. That's a total home value of $2.4 billion down the economic drain. People in Flint, one of the poorest cities in the U.S., don't have much to their name. And for many, their only asset is their home. So in addition to being poisoned, they now have a net worth of zero. Has Flint's future just been flushed down the river?
While they were being poisoned, they were also being bombed. Here's a story which has received little or no coverage outside of Flint during these 2 years of water contamination. Residents in Flint have had to contend with a decision made by the Pentagon to use Flint for target practice. Literally. Actual unannounced military exercises, complete with live ammo and explosives, were conducted last year inside the city of Flint. The Army decided to practice urban warfare on Flint, making use of the thousands of abandoned homes which they could drop bombs on. Streets with dilapidated homes had rocket-propelled grenades fired upon them. For weeks, an undisclosed number of Army troops pretended Flint was Baghdad or Damascus, and basically had at it. It sounded as if the city was under attack from an invading army or from terrorists. People were shocked this could be going on in their neighborhoods. Wait, did I say people? I meant Flint people. As with the governor, it was okay to abuse the community that held no political power or money to fight back. Boom.
The wife of the governor's chief of staff is a spokeswoman for Nestle, Michigan's largest owner of private water reserves. As Deep Throat told Woodward and Bernstein, follow the money, Schneider's chief of staff throughout the 2 years of Flint's poisoning, Denise Muchmore, was intimately involved in all the decisions regarding Flint. His wife, Deb Muchmore, who just so happens to be the spokesperson in Michigan for the Nestle company, and the largest owner of the private water sources in the state of Michigan. Nestle has been repeatedly sued In the Northern American, for the 200 gallons of fresh water per minute it sucks from out of the ground and bottles it up for sale as their Ice Mountain brand of bottled spring water. The Muchmores have a personal interest in seeing to that the Nestle's grabs as much of the Michigan's clean water as possible, especially when cities like Flint in the future are going to need that Ice Mountain.
In Michigan, from Flint water to crime and murder to GM ignition switches, it's a culture of death. It's not just the water that was recklessly used to put people's lives in jeopardy. There are many things that happen in Flint that would give one the impression that there is a low value placed on human life. Flint has one of the worst murder and crime rates in the country. Just for context, if New York City had the same murder rate as Flint, Michigan, the number of people murdered last year in New York would have been almost 4,000 people instead of the actual 340 who were killed in New York City in 2015. But it's not just street crime that makes one wonder about what is going on in Michigan. Last year, it was revealed that once again, one of Detroit's automakers had put profit ahead of people's lives. General Motors learned that it had installed faulty ignition switches in many of its cars. Instead of simply fixing the problem, mid-management staff covered it up from the public. The auto industry has a history of weighing the costs of whether it's cheaper to spend the money to fix the defect in millions of cars or to simply pay off a bunch of lawsuits filed by the victim's surviving family members. Does a cynical, arrogant culture like this make it easy for a former corporate CEO, now governor, turn a blind eye to the lead that is discovered in municipalities' drinking water?
Don't call it Detroit water. It's the largest source of fresh drinking water in the world. The media keeps saying Flint was using Detroit's water. It is only filtered and treated as the Detroit water plant. The water itself comes from Lake Huron, the third largest body of fresh water in the world. It is a glacial lake formed over 10,000 years ago during the last ice age and is still fed by pure underground springs. Flint is geographically the last place on Earth where one should be drinking poisoned water.
All the children have been exposed, as have all the adults, including me. That's just fact. If you have been in Flint any time from April 2014 to today, and you've drank the water, eaten food cooked with it, washed your clothes in it, taken a shower, brushed your teeth, or eaten vegetables from somebody's garden, you've been exposed to it and ingested its toxins. When the media says 9,000 children under 6 have been exposed, that means all the children have been exposed because the total number of people under the age of 6 in Flint is 9,000. The media should just say all. When they say 47 children have tested positive, that's just those who've drank the water in the last week or so. Lead enters the body and does its damage to the brain immediately. It doesn't stay in the bloodstream for longer than a few days, and you can't detect it after the month. So when you hear 47 children, that's just those with an exposure in the last 48 hours. It's really everyone.
This was done, like so many things these days, so the rich could get a big tax break. When Governor Schneider took office in 2011, one of the first things he did was get a multi-billion-dollar tax break passed by the Republican legislature for the wealthy and for corporations. But with less tax revenues, that meant he had to start cutting costs. So many things, schools, pensions, welfare, safe drinking water, were slashed. Then he got invoked in executive privilege to take over all the cities by firing the mayors and city councils whom the local people had elected and instilling his cronies to act as dictators over these cities. Their mission? Cut services to save money so he could give the rich even more breaks. That's where the idea of switching Flint to river water came from, to save $15 million. And it was easy. Suspend democracy, cut taxes for the rich, make poor people drink toxic river water, and everybody's happy, except those who were poisoned in the process, all 102,000 of them, in the richest country in the world.
So what are the questions to ask? Who is the author? The author of this article is Michael Moore. Michael Moore, as stated before, is known for his outlandish claims on government policies. Why was this made? who is the target audience? I believe the target audience is anyone in America willing to listen to Michael Moore. Why was this made? To show that the media does not tell the whole truth when telling a story.
Who paid for this? Michael Moore, assuming that he's the one that wrote the article.
Who might benefit from this message and who might be harmed by it? Well, for starters, Michael Moore can benefit from this article as he might get the credit for writing this, and also the people can benefit from this as they learn that the government and the media doesn't necessarily tell the whole truth when telling a story. Who might be harmed by it? I'd say the government and the media, or mainstream media, as it's showing that they're not telling the whole story.
What actions might someone take in response to this message? A lot of actions people might take is not trusting the media anymore.
What does this message want me, the reader, to think? I think it could mean, the article could want me to think that the mass media and mainstream media is not telling the whole truth, which could be correct or could be not correct. It also could be just a conspiracy theory. This is not proven. It's Michael Moore backing this up. What techniques are used? I believe that a technique used in this article is definitely the shock value. It gets the reader's attention. Obviously, it's going against the mainstream media, and it's shocking and gaining attention.
When was this made? We're assuming that this was made like sometime after the story about Flint, Michigan's water being poisoned leaked.
How might other people interpret this message? I think people can interpret this message in two ways. Some could believe that this is just Michael Moore ranting off about the usual government policies and stuff like that, or some people could think that this is the truth, like Michael Moore is out here trying to help the people.
Is this fact, opinion, or something else? Well, if you're on Michael Moore's side, I guess it's fact, but if you're not on his side, then I guess you would say it was his opinion.
So in conclusion, we can decipher that. In conclusion, both of us agreed that we can never really know what the media is saying or if it's the truth or not.